Hi, I'm Lisa. Welcome to my glass studio. I'd like to talk about how and when you should change your glass cutter head. Let's talk about glass cutters. Got my glass cutter right here. This is called a pistol grip style because you hold it like this. This is the cutting head. It has a pivot to it. It has a little bounce to it. It has a spring in there. There's a screw here that holds it onto that shaft. Right here is the cutting wheel. The wheel is a little tiny wheel that should rotate. So you want to kind of test that that is rotating before you cut any glass. And then down here, the wheel, this portion of the cutter head should have kind of a square appearance to it, kind of a nice rigid square. And there really shouldn't be too much scratching or marking on this part of that cutter head. So we've got a pivot, we've got a little bounce, we've got a rolling wheel that will not hurt you. You can touch it. And then we've got this pistol grip, which is a nice handle that gives you nice support so you can, when you're applying pressure to make a good score line, you're using the pressure from your wrist, your elbow, and your shoulder. So how do you know when to replace your head? Well, first thing is it performing well? Are you getting a good score? Let me show you right here what a good score looks like. So when you start your cutter, you want to start as close to this end without falling off backwards. Isn't that a beautiful sound? And you want to stop as close to this end without falling off. A good score sounds nice like that it kind of sings. The score sings. And it's very clean. There's no dust around the score and it's very straight. It's even and uniform beginning to end. Uniform in pressure, uniform in appearance. There's no dot dash pattern. It's nice and straight and clean. And we're going to take our running pliers, apply a little bit of pressure, and remove that glass. And look how beautiful that edge quality is. Very clean and neat. So, if you have a cutter like this one, the head has a lot more use, a lot more mileage on it. And we know it's not in the best condition because, look right here, this portion of the cutter is rounded. This is what it's supposed to look like. See how square that is? Look how this is rounded. That's from falling off the glass. Another way that indicates it's falling off the glass often is look at all this scratching here. There's none of that on this one. This one's nice and clean, and look at all that marking. Also, look right here. This wheel is sort of exposed, and there's not a lot of material there holding it, and it doesn't roll quite as freely. So this cutter is probably due to be replaced. So let's go ahead and do a score line with this cutter and see what the results are. It still sounds good. It's still pretty neat, so that's great. But we are starting to get a little bit of a dot dash pattern. The dot dash pattern can indicate that the wheel has a chip in it. And as it rolls, it's kind of like lumping along instead of just rolling really smoothly. So that would be an indication it's time to change it. So if your line is inconsistent, it has a dot dash pattern, time to change your cutter. If it's not rolling smoothly, time to change your cutter. If the backside here is really damaged, it's also time to change your cutter head. So let's go ahead and do that. What we're going to do is take this small screwdriver. Okay, so what I'm going to do first is I'm going to push this up to close that gap. I'm going to loosen the screw. You have to have a teeny tiny little Phillips screwdriver, which not everybody has. So you might want to, look into getting one of those when you're ready to change your tip. And loosen the screw. We want to be careful not to lose that screw because if you lose it on another cutter, you might want to keep this, in a little bucket or a little bag in the event that you need this screw because you've lost one. All right, see that spring action happening here? That's part of the cutter head. Now we're going to place this one on. All right, we're going to have to loosen this screw a little bit so that it goes onto that shaft. Oops, okay, there we go. We'll push it on, oop, there we go. And now we're going to compress it. We're going to tighten the screw just enough to the point where we have some movement and it doesn't come off this direction. So I'm going to tighten that a tiny bit more, just so it's snug, but not too tight. And we want to retain that spring action and the pivoting, because that pivoting enables you to do curving, curvatures or inside cuts or outside cuts with that curving. And this flexibility is kind of like a little shock absorber there on your cutter, and it helps it work better. Now look at the difference here again, how how worn out this one is with that rounded edge and how nice and clean that one is. So let's try this new cutter and make a new score next to that one. And isn't that a beautiful sound? All right, can you see how much cleaner this one is? A very clean score, nice and narrow, no dust around it. Let's go ahead and break these two out and see if we can compare the edge quality. There we go. All right, so we'll turn this one up, turn this one up. All right, it might be hard to see. Would it be helpful if I hold these still, right? But this one has a little bit more kind of marking on that edge, and than this one. This one's a little bit cleaner. So all those little markings on that edge are areas where this glass could potentially veer off and not follow your score line. So that's why you want a really nice clean cut. So start as close to the edge as possible at the beginning and end as close to the edge as possible on the other side without falling off the glass. All right, so glass cutter maintenance. First of all, try not to fall off your glass on the beginning or the end. Don't drop it on the table. Lay it down gently. Don't drop it on the floor. That can damage the wheel and the cutter head. When you're cutting glass, always cut on the smoothest side. So this glass right here, it has a texture on one side. It has these little whisker bits on one side. So I would opt to cut on the smoother side. That's better for your glass cutter. This glass right here has a little bit more texture on this side, kind of like an elephant skin pattern, and this side's a little smoother. This side is also shinier, so I would choose to cut on this smoother side. This glass has a little bit of a texture as well, and so I would choose to cut on this side because I would get a cleaner cut. You see that texture there? I would get a cleaner cut and cleaner contact with the glass with my cutter. Now this glass has a little bit of a texture, but it doesn't have the same pattern on the back. So this one I would probably choose to cut on this side so I could lay my pattern pieces out in such a way that I could take advantage of this pattern in that beautiful swirl. So this one I would probably cut on this side. Now you can always glue your pattern pieces on this side upside down, or if you're cutting strips and you don't need a pattern, well then you could certainly cut on this side, and that would increase the longevity and the use and the good condition of your cutter head. And cutter heads are not particularly inexpensive, but what the nice thing about these cutter heads is if you use them properly and you're careful with them, they will last you a very, very long time. Also, if you have someone new in your studio and you're teaching them how to cut, that's wonderful. But pay attention to how they use the cutter. Don't let them fall off the glass. Don't let them push so hard that you hear this grinding noise that is, making the hair on the back of your neck stand up. If that's happening, give them a little instruction. Say, hey, you're doing a fabulous job, but you don't have to push that hard. You're doing a fabulous job, but please don't fall off the glass. And please, handle and use my cutter carefully. I hope you found that information helpful. And what I would suggest you do is buy a cutter head and have it in your studio so that when you need it, it's right there on hand. And if all of a sudden your score lines are not working well, you're not getting good results with your glass breaking properly, you have that cutter head right on hand. You can change that tip out just immediately and then move forward and keep working on that project and continue to have a great day. So I'd like to thank Susan in Colorado for making the suggestion for this topic. That was really awesome. So I encourage you guys, we love your feedback. Please send us topics, send us ideas. What would you like to see in an upcoming video? We'd be happy to do it. We look forward to doing it for you. I'm working here in my little studio out here by myself with Nikki, and I don't always know exactly, we come up with our own topics, which we're very excited about, but I'd also love to share and help you out with different things that you would find helpful. So please send us your feedback, send us your ideas. Also, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Would love that. Share, follow, all the above. Please consider joining my premium video membership. We would love to have you. We have new videos coming out all the time. Really exciting stuff. And those videos are intended to test your skills, take you beyond the stack, cut, and just assemble type of projects. These projects teach you, more advanced techniques, more advanced methods of using glass, and using different types of materials. So they're really a lot of fun. And the projects are, if I have to say so myself, really cool. We just love them. So thanks for joining me. And again, thank you, Susan. And until next time, happy fusing.